In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to perform a two-sample t-test, otherwise known as an independent samples t-test. Remember, with a two-sample t-test, the observations are independent in some way, in that they come from different people. So we can construct the two-sample t-test independent hypotheses as the measurement from one group minus the measurement from another group, creating a different score between the two groups, and oftentimes that different score in the null hypothesis case is set to 0. The alternative hypothesis is that the difference between two groups is not equal to 0. That's for example, a two-sided test. These are the most common hypotheses that you might have. In order to do this, we're going to do this all within the JASP environment. It's very easy to do. We're going to use the independent samples t-test option. We're going to get a p-value, and we're going to compare that p-value to an alpha of 0.05 in order to determine if we need to reject or retain the null hypothesis. For this last step, for variables that have more than two categories, in the examples data set, we have undergrad characteristics data set, we have undergrad major, which has 4 different categories. We're going to use there's some different ways to do this, and I'm actually going to go into this more in the next video covering ANOVA and multiple comparisons. So don't worry about this part yet for this video. So I'm just going to delete that from the title slide. All right, so let's go into JASP. So let's say we want to look at the difference in GPA for our males and females. So that would be a independent samples t-test, because here, when we think about it, we have we're comparing the group of males to the group of females on GPA. So we're comparing kind of we're lumping all the males together, and we're lumping all the females together, and we're comparing across this variable GPA. As you recall, in the dependent samples, we were comparing 2 columns to each other by creating a different score between them. So maybe that would be helpful in helping you understand the difference between independent samples and paired samples t-tests. But for now, we're going to click on independent samples t-test. The analysis bar or pane looks very similar. We're going to click on our dependent variable. We want our dependent variable to be GPA. We're going to move that over here. And then our grouping variable, which is gender, we're going to move to there. And that's it. So we get a t-score of 1.553 on 58 degrees of freedom. So we obtain a p-value of 0.126. Notice that this p-value is not below a level of 0.05. So therefore, in this case, we retain the null hypothesis and we reject the alternative hypothesis. Notice that you can specify different hypotheses here. Group 1 not equal to group 2. This is a two-sided hypothesis. These two options here are for one-sided hypotheses. We're not going to really get into these for this. We'll just mostly always keep it in the one-sided hypothesis. Do not worry about these other types of tests. We're going to always have click student. We're not going to do any assumption checks. If we wanted to create a location, if we wanted a confidence interval, we click on location parameter and confidence interval, so we can see a difference between males and females of 0.09. You notice how this confidence interval spans 0, which was our null hypothesis. Goes from negative to positive, so that's how we know that it spans 0. So we're going to retain the null hypothesis because 0 is between the two. All right, so that is basically how we do a independent samples t-test. It's very simple to do in JASP. Again, if we have a categorical variable, like let's say we wanted to compare, let's go over here to, you might have to do this on the quizzes for undergrad major. Let's see here. There is 4 categories, and if we wanted to just compare psychology to, let's say, non-science degree, we would have to do something a little bit different, and I'll show you that in the next video.